Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through this 5-game slate. As is the case with the NBA, no matter how big or small the slate is, we've got plenty of injury to talk about. Mike, how are you on this fine Tuesday?
Doing good. Yeah, got a really lucky sweat last night. If Aaron Jones had scored at the last minute on Monday Night Football, I would have lost. So I made the playoffs by a yard. Love to see it.
Yeah, I had 6 best ball teams in Best Ball Mania that I got through, and I had I think it was 5 more that lost by less than 4 points. So
Ugh.
it was just AJ Dillon going off was very, very damaging to my bankroll. But them the breaks, you win some, you lose some.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate all the people. I don't know if anybody watching is one of these people, but had a few people tweet about how they beat me in a best ball final, which, like, I am flattered. It's wonderful that you're thinking of me, but I am in pain when you are sending me those tweets. I'm in pain finishing second and not advancing in these leagues, and you are joyfully just rubbing it in my face. Damn it,
Yeah,
Twitter.
not cool.
All right,
Not cool.
on to no. I mean, everybody should celebrate and have fun. It's cool.
Yeah.
On to the injuries today. The Miami Heat are on the slate, so that's a good half hour of discussion. Let's start with Miami.
Yeah, we've got no Kyle Lowry, no Caleb Martin, so we know we're going to see a lot of Tyler Hero ball handling, a lot of Jimmy Butler. We saw them start Nikola Jovic in the last game, get, I believe, 15 minutes. A little bit different scenario here because they do have Jamal Cain, who could be a threat to not only his minutes, Jovic's minutes, it could be a threat to start. They like his rebounding. I think they may want to take that approach here, getting a better defender, better wing defender against the Bulls makes a lot of sense. Udonis doesn't really matter. They've got enough bodies there. So, it should be pretty tight rotation. Should see really a lot of minutes out of Jimmy Butler. Max Strus is playing a pretty good bit. We've seen Victor Oladipo basically have no more minutes limit. He's a guy that could really benefit from playing time as well. So, I would expect, we've seen mostly running an 8-man rotation. Curious to see if they bring Jamal Cain in to add more guys. I kind of think they would. They seem to really like him when they have him available. So we've got him for a few minutes as well.
Yeah, and I think the minutes that they've gotten from Jovic have been very inconsistent. So could definitely see Kane challenging for those minutes, Highsmith challenging for those minutes. Like, really, the guys that they're confident in and comfortable with right now at this point are Jimmy, Bam, obviously, Strus, Duncan Robinson, Oladipo. Hero. I didn't mention Hero. Those are really the guys they're confident with at this time. And then the rest, Highsmith, Dedman, Jovic, Kane, it's all going to be based on who's playing well on a given night. But yeah, expect really heavy minutes from the starters, as we've seen from Miami. They'll just ride guys until they get hurt and deal with the next situation when it comes up. So that'll be the Heat's situation tonight. On the other side of that game, they're playing the Chicago Bulls tonight. The Bulls have Javonte Green questionable, and seems like a rather minor injury, but I know you were talking about how the Bulls are messing with some different second unit combinations, and Javonte Green, his availability could impact those. So why don't you talk through how Javonte Green impacts the Bulls today?
Yeah, so we saw a different second unit when the Bulls got absolutely stomped by the Wolves, my Wolves, who apparently are playing well again, and I'm not allowed to. I'm not going to believe it. But yeah, you see that Drummond, DMPCD, as they went to a Derek Jones Jr., Javonte Green power forward center duo. I've talked about this a lot, that the Dragic Derek Jones dynamic is something that Billy Donovan really likes. That wasn't really their big issue. Their big issue was their first unit getting completely wrecked defensively. And yeah, I mean, it was all about effort. That's all Donovan talked about in his presser. Didn't matter what scheme they were running, but worth noting they are in a back-to-back. So if they want to sit out Javonte here and then play him tomorrow, these are all things we're going to be watching. Probably should get that. Doesn't sound like a serious injury there. But obviously, if he doesn't play, we're going to see Derek Jones play mostly the backup 4, higher minute ceiling for Pat Williams, and then Drummond would almost certainly be back in their rotation.
Yeah, also should note some of the matchup differences, right? Actually, I guess maybe I shouldn't say matchup differences because the Bulls were without Rudy Gobert, and then Naz Reid got hurt very early in this game. So, and they were without Karl-Anthony Towns as well, leaving Nathan Knight as like the only like true big left on the roster for Minnesota. So it's a spot where it, in a way, helped facilitate going smaller as well. Miami could play that way, but with Dedmon and Bam healthy, I would expect those guys to get the overwhelming bulk of the full 48 at the center spot, and is probably an easier spot to play Drummond just regardless. Okay, let's move on to the Nuggets, where Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jeff Green, and Jamal Murray are all questionable tonight. Jokic did show up on the injury report with probable. Michael Porter Jr., of note, upgraded from out to doubtful. Don't think we see him, as the doubtful tag indicates. We probably don't see him tonight, but appears nearing a return, which is a nice thing for Denver as they've moved their way up into the second seed in the Western Conference. Playing tonight, that number 1 seed, the Memphis Grizzlies, in the game of the night. What are your expectations for Denver's players' availability here?
Yeah, so KCP and Jamal Murray have very different injuries. We saw KCP go to the locker room, limp pretty badly, definitely a legit injury. Think he could certainly miss. Jamal Murray, this is a lingering injury. He was playing through it the last game. Mike Malone said he was frequently talking to him about it, making sure he's okay. He was, quote unquote, gutting it out the whole time. Didn't shoot the ball well, but he was pretty happy with how he played. Got 11 assists as well. So not a back-to-back. I think Murray's going to play. They're just listing him as questionable in case he can't go. So I would lean that he is very likely to play. I would say he's much more likely to play than KCP is. If one or both can't play, obviously it's two very different things. Obviously, you're looking at KCP's role as their on-ball defender. I think they trust Devon Reed with that role. I wouldn't be surprised if they go that way. They could even slide up Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, and put Jeff Green, who's also questionable, and then run kind of almost like a last year's version of the team with the Gordon, Jeff Green front court. Certainly comfortable with that. And then if Jamal can't go, you already got Bruce playing in the Michael Porter Jr. role. So I think they would probably have to elevate Bones. Bone was on a little bit of a shorter leash last time, and we saw a little bit more Christian Brown. But I think those are kind of the iterations of how this could shake out. But I think there's definitely a good chance that one or both sit here, even though it's not a back-to-back. Yeah,
also of note here, this game against Charlotte, I mean, you look at the starters' minutes here, 37 for Bruce Brown, 35 for Murray, 40 for Jokic. They played kind of like an 8-ish man rotation. This was a game they were in control much of the game until the second unit played really poorly in the fourth quarter, and then they had to go back to the starters pretty early and have them close out a longer leash. Just something to note that like Malone's been pretty frustrated with the bench on the whole, so you might start to see more consistent upper end minutes for some of these guys. I mean, Jokic going 40 minutes in this game against Charlotte just seems totally unnecessary at this point in the season. Obviously, he was putting up an absurd line. In the reason that they won this game, he was a plus 20 in his 40 minutes. But I'm interested to see tonight against Memphis, against the opposing number 1 seed, if you see really elevated minutes from the starters tonight because of the frustrations. And we know the Grizzlies bench has, for years now been a strong source of added value for them. So something to note.
And should note that at shoot around, they didn't have like a full shooter, and they just had a walkthrough, so we didn't really have much to take away from if they were available at shoot around. So mostly in the dark. I still think that he's unlikely to play. And TJ McBride has noted that Jamal Murray had a long interview talking about, he'll have bad days with his knee. I mentioned the thing with Malone over the weekend. So Malone was giving a really detailed answer on how much Murray kind of guts through the injuries. You may remember in his rookie season, he had double hernia surgery after he played every game. So this guy plays through everything. We'll see. They may want to sit him out here and get him right for the holiday and then bring him back long season.
Yeah. All right. Not new, doubtful out tags, but Kelly Olynyk is going to miss again. He missed last night. As you like to call him, Walker Utah Ranger got the start. Walker Kessler. They got just worked by Cleveland last night. And I like Walker Kessler. I think he's a really intriguing young center prospect in the mold of one of these old school defensive oriented centers. But he got worked by Jared Allen last night. Jared Allen was just going up and over him all night long. We saw the minutes kind of top out at 25. The interesting thing that we speculate on the show was the matchup against Cleveland might necessitate them playing Kessler and Vanderbilt together, something that they don't like doing very much. The sub patterns reaffirmed that they really don't like doing it very much because it was a very quick sub in the first quarter. I think Kessler came out first. I can't remember which of the two, but I was surprised that they started with them, but they went pretty quickly away from it. What are your expectations tonight? Obviously a different matchup compared to Cleveland when you're going up against Detroit, who does like to play two bigs, but it's really not the same type of situation. So what are your thoughts on how Utah handles the absence of Olenek tonight? And no Colin Sexton still as well.
Yeah, I think that they're pretty comfortable going, changing their strategy. Obviously, Linux shouldn't be out for too long, so I think they're okay kind of mixing it up here. But as you noted, yeah, real quick sub. Beasley
It was like
in.
3 minutes.
Yeah,
4
Beasley
minutes,
comes in
something
at
like
8:40. Yeah, so they took Vanderbilt out first, and then brought him right back in, and then they took him out for Kessler, and then staggered him basically the rest of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
So they probably go that way again, but kind of a moot point. We get obsessed with starters. Maybe there's more minute ceiling there. Maybe things work out a little bit better. But definitely expecting Malik Beasley to really benefit. Not the best matchup there, but I should mention too, back to back, Conley on the injury report. We've seen his minutes get cut at certain times and back to back. So that's also kind of a factor in the situation to watch out for.
We've also seen Utah spread things out a little bit more in back-to-backs in general. And you notice there that 5 guys last night, 2 of which played a little bit in the first half, Simone Fontecchio and Taylor Horn-Tucker. 5 guys closed in the blowout situation there, the final 6 minutes of the game. 3 of them had not played in the game before, Azubuike, Oche, and Bolmero. Wouldn't be surprised if you just see like a deeper 11-man rotation even tonight from Utah. They've just done some things on the second nights of back-to-backs, and obviously they're experimenting. I think the Kessler and Vanderbilt substitution pattern is a clear indication they're experimenting with things, right? Like they don't want to play these 2 guys together. They kind of experimented with it and quickly went away from it in each of the halves. So it could get deeper here. It's a great matchup to attack against Detroit, but just be aware that, we could run into a much deeper rotation than we're anticipating or projecting.
Yep.
Okay. Back-to-back notes, teams that have not filed. Washington has not filed. Washington is not on a back-to-back. They did file.
Yeah.
But we got a note afterwards that Kristaps Porzingis did not go through shoot-around. He wasn't listed on the original injury report, so we're waiting to see. He didn't go through with illness, which, Mike, you've alluded to before. Illness missing a shoot-around is not as big of a concern for you as injury missing a shoot-around. Do you want to add any notes on Kristaps?
Yeah, I would add that I'm always more concerned about guys getting ill earlier in the virus or whatever illness, cold, whatever is running its course, right? They feel like they're a little bit more likely to miss. So this is pretty bad. He's certainly going to get he's going to get a tag, you would think. So good reporting on that end. But yeah, I would expect him to probably miss, which is interesting because we saw a little bit of overlap with Porzingis and Gafford in the last game. And after the game, Wes Unseld said they kind of liked that. So that would really up Gafford's minutes. We saw last time that happened, there was more Taj Gibson. Got a little echo on your end over there. But I'd be looking at, Gafford to probably more likely to start here. Not having to deal with Jokic, although it's against Ayton. We'll talk about that in a second, but something to keep an eye out there.
Yeah, I'll try to get through the last few minutes here without the headphones. But they started Taj before against Jokic. I could see them doing the same thing against Ayton just for the defensive presence. Very possible. Yeah. Okay, and then the Suns have not filed on the second night of a back-to-back. We're waiting on them. Obviously, Ayton played last night. Devin Booker did not, so we'll see there. They had a blowout win, so they were able to get some rest for the main guys. And then Jaden Ivey, you mentioned, has a tailbone.
Just to hit the Sun stuff real quick. If I could hit them really quick. So Ayton came out fine. Monty said he looked pretty good. Really impactful game. Booker, it seemed like a management thing. Monty said, I'm playing him too many minutes. He sat him out front end to back-to-back. I won't be surprised if Booker comes back today. But keep an eye on his minutes. They may not play him heavy minutes. So something just to keep an eye on. But we'll get their injury report. CP2 sounds like he's okay. They like the Damian Lee next to Chris Paul thing for spacing. And then to keep Landry Shamet, who's off the bench right now because they don't have campaign. So a couple factors working there if we do see Booker sit out again. And they might sit him just to give them another game off here. A game they should probably handle against this, especially if they don't have Porzingis.
Yeah, also note on the Suns, Okogie got hurt last night. We'll see
Mhm.
if he ends up on the injury report. And then Dario Saric, who we thought could take backup center minutes without without Jack Lyndale available or be in the rotation, only played blowout, basically. It was straight Ayton and Biyombo. So it sounds like Saric is still kind of far away from the rotation there. And then Jaden Ivey, not listed on the injury report, but you noted had a tailbone.
Yep, not an injury report, but had a tailbone. Had, quote, the best game of the season according to Dwayne Casey. So we'll see. Pretty good matchup, right? We like to play ball handlers against the Jazz, so we'll see if he could kind of get it going here. But just something to keep an eye on. We know teams don't list guys with injury stuff all the time, but just something I'm watching later today.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of
Warriors.
The injury
Warriors.
report.
We got to get Warriors.
Oh, Warriors. I don't have them on my list here. I missed them at the top. Yeah. So Warriors. No Dante DiVincenzo. No JaMychal Green. Clay is listed available. They're still without Steph Curry. What are your thoughts on?
Yeah, tough loss with Dante DiVincenzo. He's been really their main primary defender. So I think two candidates to start would be, I think the favorite would be Moses Moody. He certainly fits similar kind of skills, I guess, as an offensive player, but very different skills as a defensive player. Losing DiVincenzo, you're running out of on-ball guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if they start Kuminga, only getting 5 minutes in the last game. They've used him to pressure the ball in previous matchups. We saw in the Pacers game when they lost, they used him in that role. We've seen it in other times too. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kuminga starts. I think Moody's the favorite to start. And then you can just bring him in early, kind of like what they did with the Celtics game when they had that big win. And then expecting James Wiseman to step in. Obviously he's not going to have a big minute ceiling, but that they kind of need another body. And I think it makes sense. You got him there. You're a little short on centers. You don't want to play Looney too many minutes here. So I'd expect those three guys to benefit in a shorthanded spot against a big New York team that's been rebounding the ball pretty well. So I think you don't want to play too small against them. So I'd expect Wiseman to get maybe 10-ish minutes, maybe more if he's running good.
Yeah, I could see him getting the full backup center minutes. I mean, we'll see how long they run Looney out there, but the Knicks play big, so it's definitely an opportunity for James Wiseman. The Knicks have been playing well in Golden State, although they did get a good win against Toronto, has not. So this game could also get out of hand, and Wiseman could find his way to more minutes. So big opportunity for him. All right. That will do it for today's edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, support the people who are supporting us. The show is brought to you by our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts running for money, in addition to many formats of NFL contests still running for huge cash prizes. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, you can use our tools to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. Myself and Mike will be behind the paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern today to break down this 5-game slate from a DFS perspective, find out Mike's flag plant then. And if you want to support us, you can subscribe to the YouTube page here, get notifications whenever we go live. And of course, you can share this video by clicking or smashing or pressing that like button to make sure we continue to circulate the free content that we're putting out, and we'll continue to provide it for you. As always, feed the algorithm, help us feed our families, and go feed yourselves with some props or DFS packages during the course of the NBA season. Nom 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 nom.